Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marian White, and with me is Ken Bialo. And our show, Larchmont Today, goes back at least 25 years. Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
Are we institutions yet, or are we still too young?
No, I think we're about to be institutional.
Well, then we better make this a good show.
Yes.
It could be our last.
When did we run for office? March in 1991?
Yes.
So that's 27 years ago. We have been doing things on LMC-TV.
Funny, I don't remember.
It's not funny. What'd you have for lunch today? I can't remember that either, I know.
Well, Larchmont's a wonderful place, which is why we got involved. And you were mayor for 4 years and trustee for 11.
Yep. And you were trustee for 4.
Right.
And then you were the chair of the late lamented and now long gone Republican Party of Larchmont.
Well, there's always seemed to be some wonderful people coming along. But first, this is such a great show. Well, first of all, we're in the lovely new studio for LMC-TV,
yes.
And this is really very nice. People should put on a show just to come and see it.
It's not as intimate, don't you think, as the old studio? The ceilings are very high. There's a lot of light. We couldn't see anything in the studio, in the old studio.
Well, I think it's really nice.
It's very well organized,
yes.
and that's really, I'm unaccustomed to that.
It's just us.
Just us.
Well, I'm so pleased. We always like to open the show with something about Furniture Share House because it's such a wonderful organization, has made such a difference, and your dear wife, Kate, had the kernel of the idea and then developed it and has won many awards, over 10 years, right?
11.
11
This is
years,
11th year,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is
amazing.
12.
Yeah, it's going on 12.
And just creating so much awareness in the community.
Well, they're big. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the numbers are. 60,000 items of furniture have been given away free to, 12,000 people who are just coming out of shelters or have been provided with apartments but have nothing to put in the apartments. And a lot of them
an
have
empty
kids.
apartment, so that's a problem.
That's not the
It's
environment
not a
in which
home.
to raise a kid, exactly. So, or many kids. So, as it turns out, this has been a great community service for the County of Westchester, and here's where we're going with this.
We have a point?
Do you know what, yes, we do have a point. You know what the STEM Alliance of Larchmont and Marian is? No, you don't. Well, STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, and the idea of the STEM Alliance is to provide an outlet and a little push to girls to get involved in scientific stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And the STEM Alliance, it's for both genders, but I think it's principally for young girls.
Well, that's a good
and
thing.
there is a young person in Larchmont, in the Hammock School, who is looking at her 13th birthday and bat mitzvah, and she got hold of Kate and said, I really would like to do something that combines my interests in both STEM and do something for Furniture Share House. And the idea came along of building tables, which Furniture Share House is always out of. They're always out of tables that look like this.
Oh, you're kidding.
People can have
Because you
meals
just need
together.
so many tables?
They come and go. They come and go. They come and go.
Okay.
You get big sofas, they sit around for a while, but tables come in and they go out real fast.
Isn't that interesting?
So, and I don't know whether this was Kate who did this or this young woman, Rachel Patrick, her folks or herself, got a hold of somebody who's a local architect in Mamaroneck who designed a way to build, ready, tables like this out of a piece of 4x8 plywood. He figured out, he laid, this is pretty clever. He laid out the pieces on the 4x8, and so he can cut the pieces on the 4x8, and you can put together a table from what he did. And Kate went and did a little trial run with him, I don't know, maybe last month or maybe the month before. And she came back, she said, this is amazing. It's really amazing. So he's cutting a lot of these things, and people are going to come to, where are we going? At the Hommocks Middle School, the first ever community build. He will have cut the pieces, and little teams of people, I guess it's 4 people or maybe 6, will put these things together into tables.
Wow.
At this event at the Hommocks, which is March 16th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I think that's next Friday. Yeah,
yes.
It's next Friday. She will host the area's first ever community build to build these tables so that we can come and pick them up, or trucking person Dave Vitullo can come and pick them up. By the way, it was his 50th birthday last Friday. Surprise party. Come and pick them up and bring them up to the share house, and they can be given away to people who need them. So it's such an interesting thing. I mean, it's an interesting combination of the STEM Alliance idea with the furniture share house idea to
but also
satisfy
creating
some needs.
something instead of, it just expands possibilities to have things be able to be made.
Engineering skills and community making, in quotes, experiences. It sounds like fun. I'm going to go.
Well, what I think is really nice is one of the things that Kate has done so well is to involve many different parts of the community. And I know at the high school there's a furniture share house club.
There is. They do a furniture drive. Yep.
Now she's getting into the Hommocks, which is a wonderful thing.
But this is such a clever idea. I mean, the whole thing is sort of clever. The whole aspect of it.
Oh, yes.
Is
well, Rachel
clever.
gets a lot of credit.
She does. Rachel Patrick, congratulations. And your
well,
mom and
happy
dad.
birthday.
Kristen and Matt, mom and dad. Community Build Table Project. Let's see if there's a photo. No, there isn't a photo. Liam Winters is the architect who figured out how to do this. And it's really pretty cool. It really is.
Well, maybe you could bring some pictures at our next show. Maybe you could bring some pictures.
Oh, man, what a great idea. I will.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, I don't know where Kate gets the energy, but she's just always doing something. So I guess that's why
Are we going to talk election pencils or what?
No, not yet.
Okay, sorry.
So then...
Even if I wave them around?
Well, you can be irritating if you want. Go ahead. I just wanted to congratulate Jim Mazzano, who has for 21 years has been on the Westchester County Board of Legislators. Mm-hmm. And I think you know him well. Mm-hmm. He's a really great guy. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things, I guess, that the new county executive, George Latimer, did was to appoint him the director of the Consumer Protection Agency. And he said he thought it was going to be very interesting because then he would be working to enforce laws that he had helped write. And anyway, Jim is a wonderful person.
He is, and it's a congratulations goes out to him and to George for reaching across the aisle to Jim and pulling Jim into the administration. So congratulations to both, but particularly to Jim after retiring after many, many battles in the county legislature over 21 years.
Yes, well, it's actually what Jim was good at was causing discussion to happen. And I guess that leads us, I thought I would never live to see the day when Larchmont would have a contested election.
Again.
Right.
Since 2006, there has been
none. Ooh, that was a while ago.
That was a while ago.
Well, it's actually interesting. It's contested in that there are all the people that are already on the board are running again, and they're mostly Democrats, I guess you'd say, all of them Democrats. And then another Democrat wants her voice to be heard because she thinks there are things to be done. And that would be Sarah Bauer. And many people may know her because she started Preserve Larchmont. Excuse me. There seems to be, I'm sorry.
You need a little help here?
Yeah.
Sarah has kids in both the Chatsworth School and the Hommocks School, and she was a pizza mom, and I guess now is a deputy pizza mom or something like that. If there is such a thing at Chatsworth School, which everybody knows requires a lot of work on Wednesday of getting in and organizing
I've
the
been
pizza.
pizza mom.
I know, but she's kind of in charge of pizza moms,
okay.
not just a pizza mom,
Right.
but in charge of pizza moms. And so she's pretty well connected with the playground and with the younger people who live in the village who've moved here, I don't know, maybe in the last 5 years, have young kids. And when the development at 40 Ocean got attention, it was because Sarah and a bunch of people who were neighbors to the property looked at the property and said, this was one house. It was a great old house, pretty big piece of property, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's 3/4, maybe it's an acre, something like that. And some developer bought it and wanted to put 4 houses there, and it's been a battle in the last 2 years. And I think, and now I'll let you go. Do you have voice now?
Well, we'll see how long it lasts, but
Okay.
yes, thank you. Well, one of the things I wanted to point out was that Sarah's the only person that has children in the school.
Yes.
So she is intimately involved with what the school district is talking about
Also.
with, that we have way too many kids in the grade school level.
In Chatsworth.
Well, in other places.
Well, I think, yeah, that's what the school board is trying to balance out.
Right.
I mean, that's what they're talking about. I don't know if they're going to do it this year or they're going to wait
Well,
and develop
they said
things.
they weren't going to do it for this next coming
Right.
year.
So there'll be a little more planning, I guess.
Well, that would be really good. Of course, well, anyway, so Sarah has this, let's keep Larchmont, let's not keep developing it more and more. And she also is very aware of what's happening in the school. And that's a real problem because, that's a great thing because that seems to be the intersection of what's happening because we've had, apartment buildings put up
Yep.
in the village.
Yep.
And so we've had, one might say, overdevelopment for the current schools. I don't know, this seems to have been a surprise to them. But
Oh, I don't think it's been a surprise. I think that the enrollment at Chatsworth's been growing. And now, there's somebody in the school board, I don't know who or what group of them or whatever, the superintendent's looking at an out-of-whack system where there are a lot of kids piled up at Chatsworth and not so many kids piled up at Central. In my mind, I remember moving here in 1970, early 70s.
teenager.
Yes, and as we were kind of walking through the door, that people were circulating information about them closing down Chatsworth because there were no kids. So anybody who thinks that they're facing
That's
a new
funny.
problem that nobody's ever seen before, oh my God, what do we do? The sky is falling. Relax. Everything has been around before. This was, we're going to close the school because there are no kids here. All the kids were at the other schools. Now it's the Chatsworth School
Right.
that's got a lot, and well, we can't close the other schools. Maybe we'll change the districts or whatever. All that stuff is old news, but I understand if you buy into the Village of Larchmont and you pay those prices, you're expecting your kid to go to Chatsworth School, and I think you're not wanting the rug to be pulled out from underneath you. And I think that's what Sarah's talking about. She's talking about, let's don't overdevelop the village and overload the school so that it causes the kinds of issues in, whatever the school board was talking about, flex zoning or something like that. We don't want that. We don't want those
Right.
kinds of problems. And one way to settle that issue down is not to keep building in the village bigger and bigger and more, because that brings more and more people, more and more kids, and that's how your school gets overloaded. To me, that makes perfect sense. I agree with her. I think she's also interested in budget control because the younger people who moved into Larchmont were thinking they were going to get to take off as tax deductions what they pay in property taxes.
Okay, that's a good point.
And these things have now been capped by the federal, by the enactment of the new tax law at the federal level. And so you're going to be capped at a level which
10,000.
is pretty high, but not high compared
Not
to what the
high.
taxes
Yeah.
are in Larchmont, Mamaroneck Village, Rhinebeck, and so on. So people are going to be paying now dollars out of their pocket. They're not going to be able to share the cost, if you will, other than the first 10.
With the rest of the
Yeah, with the
country.
rest of the country. That's exactly right. Which, of course, was the rest of the country's objection in the first place. You're a high-cost place. We don't want to share your problems. Get control over your budget. But I think what Sarah has now said is that she is interested in budget control, which I have to say is really close to my heart and close to your heart, because when we ran first in 1991, that was our first point. Was let's get a handle on the budget. Let's get a handle on these tax increases.
Budgets should not go up by more than the rate of inflation.
And well, that was the old mantra. We haven't had any inflation for about 5 or 2, I don't know,
Oh,
5
and
or 8.
what's happened to our taxes?
Skyrocket.
Well, I guess
You know, remember we noted that when the new village administrator came in, we said the costs are just going to go up, and it's exponential. It's not just the cost, the salary cost and benefits cost of the individual. It's an administrator brings an attitude that things need to be upgraded, and it creates a tension and a push to spend more money. And I thought we were doing pretty good as a group of volunteers, because we were the ones who were paying what we were dealing with.
Right.
And it's different when you don't have that same urge. And I think that Sarah, and she says it in her. Do you have the Sarah Bauer flyer that you could put up on the screen? There it is. It's the third bullet from the top. Taxes are trending upwards. Real estate values are trending downward, and we need a strong plan for the future of the village. And I think that that's right. That is a point. It's 27 years from the time that we pushed that point hard, and it needs, whatever you say about what's happened over the last 27 years, it sure as heck for the younger people now needs to be put forward and pushed hard. The budget has to be shrunk. The way the system operates in the village of Larchmont, I'm not talking about the town of Mamaroneck, I'm not as familiar with that, or the village of Mamaroneck, but in the village of Larchmont, the upward pressure on the budget has to be capped, and now we have to push the piston down and squash out the stuff that is not need. Remember, this was want versus need. We talked
Right.
about this for years and years and years. It's not what you want, it's what you need that matters. Wants are if you have extra money hanging around. But that's not the case anymore.
Right.
Now dollars are going to be hard to come by, and so I think Sarah has a good picture of the overdevelopment issue and the school and the related school issue and the tax issue.
Combination, because so often people might go and complain to. The school board and the board of trustees they're separate.
Yes.
And so she clearly is connecting them, and will want to deal with the problem on both fronts.
Well, if you reduce the amount of new development and don't encourage old people to leave town by having really high taxes, try and keep a cap on your taxes a little bit, then the chances are that over a period of time, you will effectively help to resolve the overburdened school problem, the local school
Well, I suppose
issue.
you're right that in the relatively modest homes in Larchmont, and of course they're still pretty nice, when someone sells, then it's a family with young children that.
It goes in cycles. But the one thing you don't want to do is overdevelop. You don't want to take every square inch and develop it into 4 houses. That's just not a good idea. And besides which, the character of the village, the historic character of the village, the historic character of the buildings, the history from the 1850s, the history as a resort in the 1890s and the early 1900s, that's part of what you move into. It's part of what you're looking for when you buy in. And there needs to be some attention to preserving aspects of our history that make the village the place that it is. I'm not saying that every piece of land and every big house is of the same historic value, But there is a history, and it does need to be preserved. And knocking down a big property and putting 4 new houses, presumably going to try and be McMansions kind of things,
I'm sure.
on the same plot, is both an offense, if you will, to the historic preservation aspect of
Right.
things and the character of the village, and an additional burden on the services and the schools and the overdevelopment aspect that concerns a lot of people. And I think that she's hit the nail on the head, and I think that,
Well, also what I like is I don't feel that a lot of information comes out from the current Board of Trustees.
Right.
The agenda doesn't give you any idea about what's going on, and having someone, come in and start asking questions, so there's a dialogue that just has been missing for so long.
Well, 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years of single-party control.
Right.
And no dialogue with...
Well, this would still be single-party control in a sense.
Well, it isn't, in the sense that she's not beholden to the Democrat
Right.
machine. She's
doing it on her own.
Doing it on her own. If she gets elected, she's done it on her own. And she has things that she stands for, and she's in a position to ask questions that maybe other people were embarrassed to ask, like, why are the board meetings 45 minutes instead of hearing a discussion about things? They run through the agenda and then run back in executive session to actually, I don't even know who makes the decisions. Maybe the administrator makes the decisions and the board isn't even involved. Who knows? Who knows? It's not transparent.
Right.
It would be great. It'd be a breath of fresh air. A competitive election is a breath of fresh air. And Sarah, I think, is a breath of fresh air candidate.
Well, I agree. It's just, it's too bad that it took 2 sort of dire things happening to get people worked up, being the overdevelopment or proposed overdevelopment. And finally, with all the hard work that Preserve Larchmont did, they were not able to stop 40 Ocean, at least at this point.
Well, the board didn't stop it.
Right.
The Board of Trustees didn't stop it. Oh, well, we can have 1,000 arguments about whether they had the power to stop it and would it have been a lawsuit and would they have won and all this good stuff. The point is, you need strong leadership to take strong positions.
Right.
And if something's going to happen that's got a lot of people crazy and you back off, you've got a problem. And hence, Preserve Larchmont as board and a candidate for the Board of Trustees who was not coming from the sort of dominant party structure thinking.
Well, and she has real, I don't know if you would call it technical skills, but she's very familiar. She's been learning about the land use laws, which I'm not, you spent so much time learning about things when you were trustee and mayor. I'm not sure that other people spend that much time, and especially you've got an administrator to fall back on, and he can say, oh, leave that to me.
That's bad news. Here's the other candidate I'm supporting.
Yes.
Bubba Finelli.
Yes.
Peter Finelli, who is running for re-election. And I know personally, no, it's this one. Oh, no, it's that one, you're right. We have Peter's sign? I have signs there they are. I have that sign.
Fantastic.
2 of those signs in front of my house, and you'll see quite a few of them in Larchmont. They're very popular and a wonderful guy, a family man. And his wife, Teresa, and he are both volunteer members of the Larchmont Fire Department, which I think is hysterical.
God bless them. Well, but you have to really do work.
Oh, yeah.
You can't
you have to go through training.
You can't just be in a uniform.
Yep. So
Wow.
here's a photograph, which I'm not going to put up on the screen because it's not terribly flattering. They're wearing a helmet. They're wearing the
That's what we should do, wear helmets for our next show. That might help us.
They're in full regalia, but they are hard work, and Peter's lived here his whole life. And Teresa moved here when she married him, and their life is Larchmont. And he's been here, I'm not going to tell you how old he is, but he's pretty old. Their kids are out of school, but he puts a lot of time in for the village, and his heart's in the right place, and I think that's a key thing. That's a key thing. And if you knew him as well as I did, if you knew him, if you were to know him as well as I know him, you would know that his first and foremost interests are Larchmont. Keeping Larchmont with the character that it has, the great place to live that it is. And I think that coincides very nicely with Sarah, who is not yet a trustee, but we're hoping is elected trustee on March 20th. By the way, the village election's on March 20th. I hope this show airs before March 20th,
Well,
otherwise we just wasted 15 minutes.
Well, it just, you know, it is a celebration to me of finally getting some dialogue going. You know, that things can happen if you live long enough.
Well, let's see, when we were running for election in 1991, the then mayor announced to the newspapers that there were 3 Democrats who were not up for election in 91 and 2 trustee seats that were. And as I recall it, there was a quote in the newspapers, the then mayor said she was looking forward to working with an all-Democrat board.
Yes.
And I think that spurred us both a little bit to work a little harder, dig a little deeper, find things to say. I remember the piece of literature that we first put out kind of looked like this. It was a fold over like this, and there were 2 columns of words, and it was really rank amateur. We had no help except for Kate.
Oh, all you need is Kate.
No, we were up late studying the books and studying
Yeah.
the annual reports and the budgets and coming up with things to say. And you hand something out, and people would be just buried trying to read. What was this little teeny thing? Now, look at this. Isn't this? I mean, this is the Sarah Bauer thing that you held up earlier, and was on the screen earlier. And now we have.
Oh, okay. We have 1 minute left.
Thoroughly professional mailers that come from there are 2 people. It's a competitive race, I guess, for George Latimer's old Senate seat.
Yes.
Somebody from Yonkers named Shelley Mayer. I'm not voting for somebody from Yonkers. I don't care. I just don't see that as a person who's understanding and sympathetic to Sound Shore issues. And there's somebody named Julie Killian.
Who has 5 children,
who's from Rye.
Gets you very connected.
Yes, and from Rye, and so she's running. But my point was, look how professional this stuff is. There's 7 color pieces of paper. There's a lot of money in this. And we were we were typing things in little. You could hardly read what we were typing. They'd fold. Remember, we'd fold them up and they'd bring them over.
Oh, the
anyway,
good old days.
It was the good old days.
We were not slick, so
we were not
that
slick.
was a good thing.
We were not slick, but we're looking forward to the election
Yes.
on March 20th, and we hope that everybody goes out to vote, irrespective of who you're going to vote for. We hope you vote for Bubba Finelli and for Sarah Bauer, but
It's up to you.
it's up to you. But just
Just vote.
remember to vote. Remember to get out and vote.
And thank you to all our LMC-TV talent. It made us feel at home at this new place. So.
Do you remember the old toys that we used to hand out on the campaign trail with pencils with our names on it? Vote for this. Anyway, thanks for listening and watching.